Hello and welcome to the Wyvern TV. I'm Liam.
And I'm Sam.
And on today's show,
he meets the editor of the Northern Echo, Peter Barron.
We visit a new shop in Cockton.
And we were talking to the students who run for student governor.
But first, on the 23rd of May, it was the Year 7 and 8 cycle tournament on the DSMS field. You and Bar and I were there to report on the event.
Thanks for that. Me and Liam are here at the backfield of DSMS for the Year 7 bike competition.
The school's here from DSMS, Longfield, Horton and St Aidan's, and they've got a 3-lap race which should take them around 10 to 15 minutes.
Hello, and this is the first corner of the track. After this corner there's a bumpy section where most riders get split up, and by the time they get round this corner the second time, it's roasting today, 19 degrees, so most of them will be exhausted.
We're about halfway through the event and luckily there hasn't been any falls yet, however there has been a few slight slips and tumbles.
This is the final bit of the track.
So they come up out of the tree area, then they run along the school fence, back through the gate where they've got a U-bend, and then it's straight onto the finish line. Now, have you ever wondered why the dinosaurs became extinct?
Well, new research shows that it might have been caused by dinosaurs such as the Brontosaurus breaking wind.
It's been estimated that together they've produced over 520 million tonnes of gas annually. Anyway, here is a report from Rebecca about the Patchwork People shop in Cockton.
Thanks for that, Liam and Sam. I'm here in the new shop in Cockton called Labelled, under the power of the Patchwork People. It's basically a shop where people can bring in their old items or ones that they don't want anymore and sell them. Items like these are reseller items. The shop gets some certain commission of it, but people who brought them in gets the rest. However, items like these, which don't have any numbers on them, are ones that people have donated. The shop is used as an alternative to charity shops or eBay, where the people who bring them in don't usually get any money for them. So, what inspired you to set the shop up?
I started the shop because I really wanted to continue working with young people. I'd worked for 30 years, I've been a teacher, head teacher, and worked for Children's Services, and wanted to try to develop something that could include young people but actually on the high street, and that's where the idea of the shop came up. So we've now been open since October and it's going really, really well.
So who is this aimed at in general?
In general, the customers for the shop are young people, young mums, young dads and small children, because we obviously sell fashion and accessories that attract that sort of age group, and we also offer a reselling service, so people come in here and they can sell things as well.
So what are your future aspirations for the shop?
We would like to open a labelled shop in every town in the country. We offer not only a shop but also we train young people in retail. We're also an enterprise centre, so we're helping young people set up their businesses. So we're actually talking to Middlesbrough, Newcastle and other places to see if we could set one of these shops up there.
So where do you hope to be in 5 years' time?
5 years' time, I'll be 61. I will be happily working in the work that I love, which is basically hopefully have many shops open with lots and lots of young people enjoying the experience of working in a retail environment whilst gaining some really, really good skills.
Thank you. This is the room where things get priced up and where they do all the designs and where they have meetings and stuff. This is the board, and it shows you what it was before it was a shop. As you can see, it just used to be a market stall, and they did pretty well. During 2011, they traded up at Newcastle Green, and Ethical Market, Urban Games and Hip Hop at Wheatley Bay and Redcar Rocks. They also have students from East Durham College, and they held an information stall at Queen Elizabeth Sixth Form and Carmel Colleges, and it was a very busy year for them last year. Outside they have a new area which they're renovating to hold people with learning difficulties or people who like to have a career in gardening. They would be trained for 10 weeks and then they would have enough information and guidance to become self-employed gardeners.
On the 22nd of May, we interviewed editor of the Northern Echo, Peter Barron. Here it is.
Hello, so what first got you into journalism?
When I was at school, I was about 11 and we were doing a school newspaper project and I wrote a story which is about a horse race, I think, and the teacher who was running the class just said to me, you should do this for a living. And that was it really. It just stuck in my mind that you know, that I could go on and become a journalist. So from that moment really I decided I was going to work for a newspaper.
So what's the best thing you've ever reported on? What thing have you reported on which you've enjoyed the most?
Oh God, that's a good question. I mean, you look back and you remember all the big stories. You know, you remember, you know, September the 11th. I'll never forget.
Yeah.
The Princess Diana story. I'll never forget. But I like the stories that change things. You know, I like stories that make a difference. And I think the most important story in my career really has been a campaign that we launched, which was. It was quite close to home because one of our photographers died when he was 38. He was a young man called Ian Weir, and he died because he needed a heart bypass operation, and he waited 8 months for his operation and died while he was waiting, and that led me to launch a campaign looking at how long people were waiting for heart bypass operations in this country. And the average waiting time was 12 months in this country, and in other parts of Europe it was 3 months. And I realised that that was something that needed to change. And so we launched a campaign in Ian's memory, and it led to the government launching an initiative which led to heart bypass surgery waiting times being cut in line with the rest of Europe, and the government acknowledged that it was the Northern Echo campaign that started all of that. So I look back at that and I think, well, you know, if nothing else happens, that made my career worthwhile, really.
Yeah. The Northern Echo's recently got an iPhone app. What do you think the chances are of the newspaper completely moving to there, or other newspapers completely moving to the internet and apps?
Well, I think it's the way that we're moving, but I think it's going to be a long time before they completely replace newspapers. I mean, we all know newspapers are in decline, and we've got to look to the digital future, but I think it's going to be very slow. And in terms of the iPad, I mean, we've launched the iPad about 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago, something like that, and the numbers are very small. But it's a start, and you've got to be in there. You've got to start it somewhere. I think the numbers online are growing all the time. I mean, the Northern Echo's got 2.5 million visitors a month now online, and the revenue that we make, the advertising revenue, 10% of that is now online. So it's becoming serious, you know. But I think that newspapers have got, you know, at least a decade, possibly 2 decades to go, you know, before we're starting to talk about, you know, them having been kind of consigned to history.
Is it true that the Echo sales have went up in the last 5 or 10 years?
Well, the sales haven't gone up, but the income from the sales has gone up.
Yeah.
So we're making more money now from newspaper sales than we were 5 years ago. Now, that's not because we're selling more newspapers, it's because the price of the paper's gone up. So we've had a strategy which has been to, particularly on a Saturday, invest in the Saturday paper and make it, you know, really thick paper. But it's gone up from 45p to 80p in just under 2 years. Now that's a big hike in your newspaper sales price. But, you know, people are buying it and we're making more money. So when people talk about the death of newspapers, the truth is the Northern Echo's making more money from its newspaper sales than it was 5 years ago. Advertising revenue is a different kettle of fish. We've lost half of our advertising revenue in the last 5 years, you know, so that's where the issue is.
Yeah. The Northern Echo is moving out of its current building to make way for Debenhams in town. How will that affect the paper, if at all?
Well, I don't think it'll affect the paper at all. I mean, I think you can produce a newspaper in your bedroom these days. You know, you don't need a big office. I mean, the Northern Echo's been based there, you know, for 130 years, and over that time, the number of people who are based there has diminished. You know, we don't print there anymore. We haven't printed there since 1990, so we don't really need the space anymore. So it's not going to make any difference to the paper. I think that the question is, at the moment, because of the economic situation in the country, we don't know when we're moving, you know, so we don't know when Debenhams are going to move in, you know, it's all up in the air. All we know is that they have put a down payment on the building, and they want it at some time in the future, but it could be years away, you know, so at the moment we're not going anywhere.
You've been the editor of Northern Echo for around 13 years now, so what's the best bit of the job?
Oh, the best bit of the job is doing stuff like this, coming out into the community, meeting people. I think that the great thing about my job is that when I come to work in the morning, I don't know what's going to happen because news is unpredictable. So you can come to work thinking you're going to be doing one thing and then something happens which changes that. So I think it's the unpredictability of it, the variety is what I love. And I love the fact that it's a very privileged position. You get to, you know, I've been to 10 Downing Street, I've been to Buckingham Palace, I've met famous sports people.
Yeah.
It's a very privileged job and you've never got to forget that, really.
And before you did the Titanic production earlier this year, you quoted, "I can't sing, I can't dance, and I can't act." So how did that go for you in the end?
I loved it, I really loved it. I can't sing, I can't act, I can't dance. I've never done a theatre production before, and I'm a great believer in that you need to experience things to understand them, you know, and I was asked to perform in Titanic by Darlington Operatic Society, and I have to say it was one of the best experiences of my life because there's a real camaraderie that grows out of performing together with a group of people, and I made new friends, and I loved the experience, and you know, I think, and it also showed me how important the arts are, you know, because it kind of, you know, I'd underestimated the importance of groups like Darlington Operatic Society, and they bring people together, they improve young people's confidence, they generate a lot of money, you know, they're putting £30,000 a year into the Civic Theatre. Now, if it wasn't for that group of people, where would the Civic Theatre, you know, that's a lot of money to lose, and, you know, so I think it's very, very important that the community appreciates organisations like that.
And you went to work on horseback for one day.
I did.
For the production. What was that like?
Scary.
Have you ever done horse riding before?
I have a little bit. I have done some horse riding in the dim and distant past, but it's a long time since I've been on a horse. And I rode to work in my costume as William Stead because 100 years or whatever it was ago, William Stead used to ride his horse to work, and he used to tie the horse up outside Crown Street Library. So we reenacted his journey to work to promote the show, really, and also to commemorate his death because it was 100 years since he died on Titanic. And so we did that, and I was amazed at how many people turned out to see me, you know, ride through the town on this horse. It was a bit scary because it was a very big horse. The bus drivers weren't particularly kind, I didn't think. They hooted their horn a little bit, which made the horse a bit sort of skittish, you know. But I did it, I got through it, and it generated a lot of publicity for the show.
Anyway, this month, for Pupils' Perspective, we asked the people who were running for student governor what they would change in the school.
They were Dominic Fairbridge, Harry Pape, Katie Appleyard, Rebecca Parkinson and Amy Davies. So if you became student governor, what would you change?
I'd change the times of the library to people who need more homework.
So would you open it earlier?
Yes.
At lunchtime?
Yes.
After school?
Maybe. More activities at lunchtime and more tutor activities.
Like sports stuff?
Yes.
Or stuff on computers?
Bit of both. Fridays.
So Katie, if you became student governor, what would you change?
I'd try and bring in new facilities for things like drama and things, because we've got the music room, but it's not really open for other people to use unless they're in the music classes. I also want to try and bring back Fast Food Friday to have at different points of the month. I'd also think that we should try and have a new anti-bullying policy. So we've got a certain way, so if you are being bullied, there's someone you can, like a prefect or someone, that is assigned to you that you can go and talk to, or at least there's someone there to talk to you even if you're not being bullied, because some people, they do struggle to make friends or they don't have many friends, and it's nice to have someone that you can come and talk to and they can give you advice.
So Rebecca, if you became student governor, what would you change?
I'd change stuff like, I know this is happening at the moment, but probably speed up the process of fencing off the backfield.
Yeah.
Just for the reason that it's health and safety reasons. Something in the PE department to keep ties safe because they've been getting nicked all the time. Try to bring back drama because I've heard somewhere that there might be a lesson of drama coming up. Student of the week would be similar for teachers look over people's work, but instead of being one from all the years, one from each year.
Yeah.
Showcase talent, like teachers look over work, and every so often they do like a showcase night where they show people's work off, and it'd either be an assembly or if they wanted their parents to see it, it'd be a nighttime one.
Yeah.
And then finally I would have, I don't know, either a temporary or permanent graffiti wall, but it would only be allowed to be accessed during art lessons and only certain art lessons. I reckon this would be good because it'd express people's artistic talent and it'd stop people from doing that in the public or stage property.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Harry, I believe you prepared a speech.
I would have more after-school clubs and lunchtime clubs. However, these clubs wouldn't just be sport. I would include things such as an ICT workshop at lunchtimes. The club would involve helping the pupils who are struggling or just people who want to know more. I would also try to get a 3G pitch, what would replace the hockey pitches. These could be used to hire by clubs to bring in extra income for the school. Also, I would get more games in the library as entertainment. Lastly, I would like to include fish and chip Friday in the canteen at lunchtimes every 2 weeks.
The election for student governor was on the 10th of May 2012 and Amy Davies and Harry Pape won the election.
Anyway, that is it for this show, but you can visit us online at www.wyvernnews.blogspot.com and you can follow us on Twitter at dsms_wyvern. And it's goodbye from him.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. See you next time.
Bye.